People say, oh, you can't tie that in a boat or anything like that. Well, we're gonna prove it to you. You can tie it in a boat. We're actually doing this in my boat. There it is. That's the FG knot tied in a boat. Definitely one of the strongest knots you can use out there for splicing line. Okay, as you guys have been following, you've been following our series on tying knots. Today, you're gonna learn with me on tying a knot. I've tied it and I can tie it, but I'm still not an expert at it. I'm confident enough to tie it and use it in tournaments. But this guy here, this is my son Mason, I honestly feel like he's an expert at it. I'd let him tie it up against anybody. So we're gonna take you through the FG knot. We're gonna show you how to tie it. And the big advantage of this knot is not only the strength of it, it's not a bulky knot. So when you're reeling it through your guides, you don't hear that clanging sound like you do with other knots. Like a double uni knot's a great knot, but you can hear it clanging through your guides. It gets damaged when it goes through your guides. It can hurt your guides. Where this FG knot is truly the most amazing knot that you can tie for splicing lines. So Mason, are you ready to do this thing?
I'm ready.
Okay, so what we've got here is we've got a spool of yellow braid over here, which this would be your fishing rod, and down here under your foot you have your fluorocarbon line. And what we've got here is we've got 20-pound KASTKING Cast Pro braid, and we're splicing it to 30-pound gamma fluorocarbon. And we're doing the heavier lines just so it's easier to show you guys, but it's also easier to practice on heavier lines as well. So I can tell you without a doubt, just because of my experience, practice on heavier lines. It's much easier to learn on heavier lines than lighter lines. Lighter lines are way more finicky when it comes to getting this knot right. So here we are. We're actually doing this in my boat just because we've had some complaints. People say, oh, you can't tie that in a boat or anything like that. Well, we're gonna prove it to you. You can tie it in a boat. I've done it in tournaments. I've done it in Major League Fishing. I've done it during our breaks. It takes me 3 or 4 minutes to tie. I'd be willing to bet Mason can tie it even much faster than me. Are you ready to tie this thing?
I'm ready.
In his right foot, he's got his spool of fluorocarbon line. Now the big trick is, when you get this out, you're holding the spool with your right foot. You want to get your line, your fluorocarbon, to the proper length, which is what?
Just so you can set it on your leg like this, and it won't fall back over. It'll just stay there on its own. I found that's a great length to work with.
Okay, so now we've got your braid, which goes to your rod in your left hand here. So guys, this is the trick, and this is what makes this feasible to tie in your boat.
I'm gonna pinch the tag in and make a loop like that. You get yourself a little bit to work with. It's really makes it much easier for you.
It's better to have too much here than not enough, right?
Absolutely.
So you've got probably 2 feet of line here in a loop, and now he's gonna...
So you take your fingers like that and you put it around your pinky with the tag end facing away from your hand. You take it, and you have to keep it that way. It's a very important part. So you take it just like this, get all the wraps out of it. So it's straight, and then you just wrap it around. So you get a nice, confined, small working area.
So this is what he did there. He wrapped the braid around his hand because basically he's making a loop out of it. So where a lot of people do it and it's all out here and it's spread out, this is where you're working now. It's just right here in your hand, and he made this nice little triangle, I guess you'd say, that's right here in your finger. Show him how. And this middle finger, it's important to see where his middle finger is, so as he ties this knot, he does a lot of work with that middle finger. But as you can see, he's gonna be tying his knot right here, correct?
Right here.
Or right here. And then he's gonna use his middle finger to manipulate the fluorocarbon as he's working through it. So he's got about I don't know, probably 15 to 18 inches outside his knee. That's one of those things you gotta experiment and figure out what works for you. So now this is the next crucial part.
So you go through your hand, come out and away from you. And see how I took my middle finger and grabbed it against my ring finger?
Up through the loop, came out and went away from himself, and now he's holding it with his middle finger there. The important part here is how many times are we gonna wrap this?
I'm gonna wrap this 12 times before I start applying pressure.
12 times, so he's went away.
Now I'm gonna do the exact reverse.
He's gonna go towards you, away, towards you, away, towards you, away. How many are you at?
I'm at, this is 7.
7, okay. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12. So now he mentioned about applying pressure. He's applying pressure with his right leg. And as you can see, show him your knot.
Right.
His knot is starting to develop right now. He's starting to build the knot. So now he's adding pressure. Essentially, he's going to build this so the braid is built over the top of the fluorocarbon so it won't pull loose. So we've got 12 wraps, right?
Absolutely.
So now how many are we going to do?
We're going to go to 26 wraps on this. I know it sounds like a lot, but it helps it strengthen the knot and it helps it to be very smooth going through your guides. And
the lighter the line, it's better to use more wraps, correct?
For sure.
So, all right, so we'll let him finish. Towards and away. Guys, it's one of those things when you're doing this knot, you want total silence. You don't want somebody talking to you. You don't want your cell phone ringing in the middle of it, because it's really important to keep track of the count of how many knots you do, or how many wraps you do on this. So what number are we at here?
We're at 26 right now.
26 wraps, so let's show them your knot. So as you can see, guys, that's really a smooth, slick knot. So we've got our 26 wraps. You can see he's putting pressure on his leg, so he's pulling that knot tight, and he's showing your hand. He's got it, you know, it's tight on his hand here as well. So, but that's what keeps this knot being such a good knot. So now we're ready to basically tie up the knot, right? Or secure the knot.
We're ready to secure it, because right now, if you get away with it, you could fish with this. It has all of its strength right now. We just have to keep it from coming uncoiled.
So essentially what we're doing now, he's tied the knot, now we're just going to keep it from coming uncoiled like he said. So this is the most important part right here.
So you take your fluorocarbon and you put it in your teeth, and you take your right hand and take your pointer finger and your thumb, and you grab the end of your knot and you just let go right here. So like he said, the knot is tied, now we just have to secure the knot. And you can see how much pressure you're putting on that knot, and it's very important.
So now the big key is to
take your left hand and you just transfer that.
So he's keeping that knot pinched right there at the base of it. He's basically going to secure this now with basically a simple overhand knot.
So you take your braid tag and you go and you do a single half hitch over your braid main line and your fluorocarbon tag end. Just like that.
One simple half hitch. You cinch those down there.
And now technically, if you wanted to, you could fish with this knot. But we're gonna do this so that it goes through your guides much smoother, and you just have that extra bit of reassurance when you're fishing with it.
You're gonna do what, 1 or 2 more half hitches before cutting the fluorocarbon tag, correct?
1 more using the fluorocarbon tag, and I'm gonna do 3 on the other side of it, just to really make it smooth. You don't have to do this, but I found that it really helps to smooth this, so you can alternate which side your half hitch is on. And it just really helps it to keep that straight, thin little line right there, which just helps your casting and helps you get more fish that way. You ignore the fluorocarbon tag, it's done, but you want to keep it there so you don't accidentally back over it. So you take your braid again, and you do a half hitch.
So those first 2 knots went over the braid and the fluorocarbon, where now he's just going over the braid to protect that knot a little bit more and make it a little smoother. 2,
I'm gonna do 1 final half hitch just to really increase the smoothness of this knot. Right there. That's a finished knot right there. All you have to do now is cut the tag ends and you are good to fish.
And that's the neat thing, those tags you can cut right up there very close. But guys, put this thing to the test. You know, you can really put a lot of pressure on this thing to know before you get out there on the water
just how strong
it is and that you got it right. Because if you don't have it right, it will slip at this point and you'll have to start over. But much better to do it now than in the moment of truth when that big fish bites.
So what I do with the fluorocarbon, just to save yourself from nicking the braid, I'm gonna cut it so it's a little bit long right now, and I'll go back and cut it 1 more time. Just to get it really nice and close. So those 3 wraps, they'll come up and just rest right on the base of it and make it really, really smooth, just like that. So you can barely even notice that. It's not going anywhere, and it's real smooth coming in and out of your guides.
So there it is, guys. As you can see, you can clearly see there how awesome this knot is. It's very, very sleek. You know, as you can imagine that going through your guides, there's no bulkiness to it. There's no bulk. I assure you that's one of the strongest knots out there, especially for splicing lines. There it is. That's the FG knot tied in a boat. Can be proven it can be tied in a boat, and definitely one of the strongest knots you can use out there for splicing line.